Hey everyone, welcome to Monday's edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams along with Chris King. Chris, hope you had a good weekend.
Like I said in the pre-show, if it wasn't for your boys from South Florida going and ruining everything by beating Cincinnati the other night by 2, I could have had another 6-teamer to put on the board. But no, the Bulls had to go and screw everything up for everybody.
They had to
Thanks a lot,
actually
South Florida.
Yeah, well,
Gotta
sorry
go
about
and just
that.
screw everyone over.
There you go. That's got to do something, right?
They could have stayed home.
Yeah, that's possible. Tell you what, we're going to bring in our guest for today, and she's always welcome here, Allie Burns. Now, Allie Burns has a show called Morning Wood, which airs exactly the same time over on our friends at Picks and Parlays. But we highly recommend that if you're going to like Allie because you liked her last week, but watch us and then go watch Allie, okay? So, or just watch Allie, either way. So here we go. Allie, good to see you. How are you?
Hi, guys. How's it going?
It's going okay. I tried to give you a nice plug there and make sure that our folks, drop by and say hi.
I appreciate that. And it's good news. Now the Morning Wood show is going to start at 1 p.m. Eastern. So you guys can jump in on my show at 1 Eastern and give me your picks for our contest. And then you can jump over and hang out with you guys, with Jim and Chris.
And are we blaming Lenny for that?
No, we're blaming Craig.
Okay.
It's so funny too, because Lenny and I are like 10 a.m. the humanity, because we're in Vegas like 30 minutes earlier. Oh my God, I guess we could do it. So we're a little bit
put a gun to my head. Yes. So did you have a nice weekend, Allie?
I did. I had a really good weekend. I went to kind of a spiritual retreat thing, and I cleansed my soul, cleansed my mind. So
that would make one of us.
Apparently you didn't cleanse South Florida from stealing games from people.
I did not do that. That was not on my list.
It should have been. Somebody should have put it down. I'm going to blame Lenny for that too. Because of Lenny, I had to watch the Maple Leafs nearly blow a 6-goal lead the other night before beating Detroit 10-7.
Oh my!
So what, they got the field goal? What was that?
Yeah, Saturday night's hockey game at the Little Caesars Arena ended up 10-7.
Holy cow!
That's weird. Okay,
it was, especially when it was 7-2 going into the third period, and then all of a sudden, 4 minutes later, it was 7-6.
Oh my gosh! I bet he was losing his mind. Lenny was probably losing his mind.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's one thing to lose your mind; it's another thing to lose your money.
Yeah, that's fair. Which would you rather lose, Jim? Your mind or your money?
There'd be people that would argue I never had a mind to lose in the first place.
I was going to say, Jim traded it for a bag of chips about 6 years ago.
Right?
Were they good chips though?
They were actually, to be honest. They're Utz, which is a regional brand, but there you go.
Oh, I know. My family's from Pennsylvania.
Okay, then you're very familiar with Utz. There you go.
Yes.
Hey, Allie. You know that we all are friends of the folks at BetMGM, right?
Yes.
And we want to take advantage of a very cool BetMGM promotion, which is for first-time users. Use your BetMGM app, deposit and place a bet of either $10 on any NBA game and get $200 if either team hits a three-pointer. So there you go, boys and girls. That's like taking money, all right? So be sure to check in our show box below, because all the information on that promotion, plus another one we will be telling you about a little bit later, is all right there in the show box below. So please go down to the show box below and check it out. Okay. Also, while you're around here, just trying to get this business out of the way so we can talk. And that is to go out and smash that like button and hit the subscribe button, so you can see this show and know that it's around all the time, okay? So do that for you. And by the way, if you happen to be in that show box below, you can also subscribe to the podcast, which goes up 5 minutes after we finish, which is sometime in between 2:30 and 3 o'clock sometime. So there we go. All the business out of the way. Back to talking sports now.
I swear on my tombstone, it's going to say like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.
That's right.
That will be on my tombstone.
Got it.
Well,
I actually have a crawl that does it. So I do it verbally and then, shamelessly scrolling across the screen there.
Well, look at that, Jim. John's already asking tonight about Texas Tech and Kansas State. Talk about
I
Texas
love
Tech.
this Texas Tech team. Like, I love them.
I didn't love them the other day when they lost to TCU.
Well, I mean, I felt like that might have been a little bit of a letdown spot. And TCU is a tough squad. I mean, when you get those smaller Texas schools playing against bigger Texas schools, you could tend to have a problem like Houston had with SMU not so far back. But we came back with a vengeance and handled business.
The Cougs.
And you still have Memphis coming up again, right?
Yeah, Memphis was a team that really owed me money through the first half of the season, but they were in my I did my first TikTok teaser yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they were in the teaser that I gave out on Morning Wood was Memphis. It was Memphis, Minnesota, and Maryland. And then the one I gave out on TikTok, the Memphis game had started, so I replaced it with the Jazz, and all four of those picks cash. So go spiritual retreat.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know about you guys, but I have a theory here. And my theory has always been I wanted my team to lose once in the week or so before the tournament. Because I didn't want them having a 10 or 15 game streak rolling into first the conference tournament and then the NCAA tournament, because that's just too much karma. When you get to that point, I'll get that loss out of your system.
I have a 2-word response to that, Jim. You know what it is? John Wooden.
Okay. I got a 2-word response for you on that. 16 teams. That's how John Wooden's tournament was a 16-team tournament. It wasn't a 68-team tournament. So.
Well, but you could point to Tark. I mean, Tark was 37-0 before they got screwed by Duke in 90 or 91.
They didn't get screwed. Nobody screwed anybody over. We just
they lost.
Yeah, they lost.
Well, I'm just saying because UNLV had a terrible 3-point shooting night that night. Because if you have to remember the year before in the title game, it was 103 to 73.
Yeah, but. Look.
I don't know why we had to bring that up, Chris, but whatever. That's fine. That's cool.
You have to remember, I grew up in the town where Christian Leitner's from. I'm not a big Duke fan. Of course, I'm not a big fan of the ACC as a whole, but.
Well, there you go.
You don't like good basketball, or
those of you who are
It's like Jim said, I grew up in the Big East where people mug you and it's not a foul. So,
right.
But those of you who are fans of the ACC, please direct all of your emails to Chris King. Okay.
Yes.
And that's at mediadc@gmail.com.
Right, exactly. So by all means, aim it there. All right. Well, we're going to take a look at a couple basketball games.
Well, first, I do want to see what Allie thought about Texas Tech and Kansas State. I mean, like John said, Texas Tech lost to Kansas State in Manhattan. Are they going to turn around in Lubbock tonight and get the win? Do you think, Allie?
Hold on. I haven't looked at that game. I'm into the small schools right now, so I just haven't.
I am too, but I just figured that since it was asked, I wanted to touch on it.
Yeah. No, I'm pulling it up. I mean,
Texas Tech is going to win. I'll make it.
They're favored by 12.5.
Yeah,
I think.
I think 12.5 points is probably too many points, though. I mean, I'm not me. I'm not ever going to.
I know you don't like giving away points.
Yeah, I'm greedy. On
the plus side, at least Texas Tech is 17-0 at home.
Yes,
and they've covered in 14 of them.
That's Euler Foster said Tech is problematic at home, so I'm not exactly sure where you were going with that, but maybe is that just against the spread? They're 14-3 at home, which is still not a bad gig. I wouldn't lay the points though. I would take State. I would probably, because it's so many points, I would take Kansas State first half, because I like to get like 6.5 points or so in a first half, because I don't think it'll be that big of a margin. But yeah, I'm not going to bet that game. I really don't like to bet the big games because I like to watch the big games, so
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's easier than, getting aggravated with what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we've talked about it before. The lines are much sharper on those games and stuff like that. So I'll just watch.
I did benefit from Baylor coming back to beat Kansas the other day. That was nice.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, we'll start
And-
right in your home, in your backyard there, Allie, the Mountain West. We're going to go to the Dome of Doom, as they call it in Laramie now.
Yes.
Wyoming, a 2-point underdog against San Diego State. Are you surprised by that at all?
No, I wouldn't say I'm surprised by it. I mean, the one thing I tell the morning woodies is that, I mean, maybe no, I'm not surprised. SDSU is a good team. They're just not a great road team, but they play a decent defense. The thing with Wyoming that I tell all the morning woodies is that Laramie is a high altitude, and you got to remember that when you're playing at Wyoming, the totals tend to stay under, which actually has not been necessarily the case through some of this season. I said all that at the beginning of the season, and then there have been some games that really just ran away. But it's never easy to play in Wyoming. So if you're going to give me 2 points with a home dog in Laramie, then I like the looks of that. I like the sound of that.
That was my thought process as well. I mean, they're coming off that win, and you said it last week, and we then touched on it again later in the week. Fighting Steve Alford is a full-time job, and Wyoming beat Nevada Saturday by 13 points as a 7-point favorite. But again, that's Steve Alford. The big thing about San Diego State, they don't score a lot, and we saw that happening against Boise State in that game last week. I'm sure you saw it. The exciting 58-57 brick fest at the free throw line by Boise State that let San Diego State stay in the game. But San Diego State just 308th in scoring offense at 65.6 points a game. I know they're ranked number 1 in defensive efficiency by KenPom, but they're facing a Wyoming team that's in the top quarter of the nation in scoring offense. They shoot the ball well. They shoot 56.5% inside the arc. They're better at the free throw line than San Diego State. And the big thing, it's going to be a clash because San Diego State's number 1 in the conference in defense. Wyoming's number 1 in offense. And I think the big thing is going to be Graham Ike and Hunter Maldonado posting up down low because San Diego State doesn't really have anybody you can count on outside of Matt Bradley on the offensive end of the floor. And that's been their big issue all season long is who steps up if Bradley struggles. As it was, Bradley has to feel bad after missing those 2 free throws late against Boise State that could have put the Broncos away. I like Wyoming here. I mean, we've liked them all season long. It's hard to argue with a team that's 13-0 at home. And I'm going to go with Wyoming. And I'll take the points because they're there.
Yeah. I don't know why I wouldn't. I mean, you could definitely sprinkle that money line. Sorry, I'm just catching up on all this too. I've kind of been out of the loop a little bit.
It's okay.
But
you're zen. So go ahead.
Also, we've got Wyoming as a game and a half back, which is something I always look at. I don't know why my phone is so funny. And then they've got UNLV to play next at UNLV.
And then at Fresno State. Or home against Fresno.
Right. And then SDSU is going to play Fresno next. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to get up to date with where everyone's at.
I'm disappointed that Fresno State's falling apart, too.
I know. What happened to that little squad? They were such a gritty little team, and now it's not working out for them.
I mean, they did lose by 2 to Wyoming and 3 to UNLV, but then they got dusted by Colorado State, and then San Diego State beat them by 17. They did come back and beat Air Force last week, but that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah, that's just it. We've got 83% of the money is on Wyoming. But for whatever reason, it's going SDSU -1.5 was the open, and now it's up to a 2. So the line's actually moving the wrong way.
Does that surprise you at all? I mean, like you said, there's a lot of money going on Wyoming. Why is the line going towards San Diego State?
Yeah, I mean, that's something I look for is those fishy line moves. So like for me, that would actually probably be a stay away game because it's not going the right way or the way that I think. That's just like my brain because there's so many games to go through. I have these little certain rules that save me time,
right.
Like if you're a home team and I've got to lay a run and a half in a baseball game or a hockey game, I've got to lay the goal and a half. I just don't even look at the game because I'm not giving points away for a home team where you might not play a 9th inning. Hockey's a little different, but I just don't like to give points away in games that typically end by a margin of 1 point, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, no sense giving away something when the goal here is to win.
Yeah, so that's my thing. Like, if the line is moving funny, it's typically just a stay away game for me. But if I was going to play this, I would play Wyoming plus 2 points. Absolutely.
Okay. Moving on, we're going east, way east.
Right, we're gonna go all the way out to Long Island, home of Scott Reichel.
Right.
Wave
as you go by. Yeah.
Yeah, the Hofstra Pride favored against the Charleston Cougars in a game that'll probably be a track meet because neither team knows what defense is. I guess that goes for Hofstra. That goes back to the way Speedy Claxton played when he played college basketball for Charleston.
It's been a while, yeah.
For Charleston, that's just the way Pat Kelsey's teams play. They don't play defense. I think he forgot how that works, probably from playing coaching in the Big South at Winthrop.
The Winthrop, yeah.
Hofstra 37th in scoring offense, 77.6 points a night. They shoot well inside the arc. They knock down a lot of threes. And that last stat, Jim, probably the most telling, 80.2% at the free throw line. And I think that's going to come in handy today because we'll get to that in a second. But Charleston 31st in scoring offense, 78.2 points per game, but that's because they run. They're, I believe, and I'll just double check here. Charleston is second in the nation in adjusted tempo at 74 possessions a game. When you get that many possessions, it's easy to score points, even if you can't shoot, which apparently is the Cougars' problem. And sadly, Charleston 330th in scoring defense, so they give up almost as many points as they score, 76.6 points a night. They're 297th in field goal percentage defense, 273rd inside the arc, 223rd in three-point defense, and probably the toughest stat in this one, Charleston 350th in the nation as opponents knock down 16.2 free throws a game, and they're 349th by giving up 22.5 attempts at the stripe. If you're going to give up that many free throws to Hofstra, it'll probably be like that the 76ers game yesterday where Embiid shot 27 free throws by himself. Then I'm looking for Hofstra to take advantage of getting to the stripe a whole bunch of times to put away Charleston at home to earn their 21st win of the season. And they'll close the regular season there, hopefully 21-10 with the win. They'll finish third in the CAA regular season mark because UNC Wilmington 15-3, Towson is 14-3. They play Delaware tonight in another matchup. That'll be interesting to see if the Blue Hens can bounce back from the issues they've had. But in this one, I'm going to go with Hofstra and give the 5.5 points. I just can't trust Charleston to stop anybody.
I'm on the other side of this. I already bet it. Just to be full transparency here.
You don't have to agree.
Well, I'm not gonna. So there.
Well, that's what I said.
I got you on Coppin last week, remember?
Yeah, I remember Coppin.
Right.
Yeah, I think it'll be a closer game. I think Hofstra wins the game, but I think it's closer. My other thing was I actually think it goes under. 160, if you look in their last 5, I mean, Charleston's gone over that once. Hofstra's gone over that once. The last time they played, it was a 149. I have Charleston averaging, through my numbers, a 157 in their last 5, and I have Hofstra averaging a 148. So I didn't play the under, but I'm leaning towards an under, and I did play the plus 5.5. I think it's going to be a closer game.
I'll say that right off the bat that this is a one-bid league, right? So, and I don't think, I think Hofstra's good enough to be one of the top 3 or 4 in the tournament. But when the tournament time comes, it's either going to go. Who's leading that division?
UNC Wilmington is 15-3. Towson is 14-3.
It's going to be one of those 2 teams.
I think Wilmington's going to come. Wilmington's due for some regression because they've won a bunch of games, even though they don't shoot to save their lives.
My other thing with this was like the recent strength of schedule. Where hold on, let me just make sure what I'm about to say is correct before I say it. Yeah.
Oh, why start now?
Right. That's fair. College of Charleston played Drexel. They played Delaware. They played Northeastern, which is at the bottom, but they only lost by 3. They pushed with Towson. Whereas Hofstra just got off of William and Mary and Elon and Northeastern and Elon again. So their past 5 games, their strength of schedule has not been the toughest in the whole wide world. Whereas it feels like College of Charleston is covering, they're coming for you. They want to play. They only lost by 1 to Drexel as a 3-point dog, lost by 3 as a 4-point dog to Delaware. So I love Purdue Fort Wayne. I'm a sucker for Purdue Fort Wayne.
Yeah, I like the
one for you
Mastodons. They
guys.
played some good basketball
Mhm.
down the stretch.
James has a question for you guys. What do you think of Purdue Fort Wayne at 550 to win the Horizon tournament?
Love, love, love. Love to love you, baby. Hold on, let me pop in here. Let me pop right on in here. Let me tell you a thing or two.
Yeah, I'm just trying to take a look at.
I'm just so obsessed with so many teams in this. Like, I love Cleveland State. I've been a big Cleveland State person for years. I love Wright. I love Northern Kentucky. So that, to me, as far as making that bet goes, I probably wouldn't make it because I think there's so many other options of people who could of teams that could just come out and win it. But I definitely think Purdue Fort Wayne is a good one to go with.
Yeah, Cleveland State kind of crumpled down the stretch too. They had some disappointing games. They lost to Detroit Mercy. They lost to Oakland, so they dropped their 3 of their last 5, including that triple overtime game at IPFW back on Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So
where's the CAA tournament this year?
It is Washington D.C., so it'll be in your backyard. Oh no, wait, the CAA. We're talking about the Horizon though.
Horizon quarterfinals at Fort Wayne, Indiana, but are they in that's them. It's not there.
Yeah, the finals will be in Indianapolis.
Okay, there we go.
All right, so the Horizon finals will be in Indianapolis, and of
course nobody from ESPN is backing IPFW either. They're just looking real quick.
That's a good sign for you guys.
3 of them have Cleveland State, and 1 guy has Oakland.
Yeah,
Lunardi has Oakland.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, like that's gonna happen. Okay.
Yeah, Cleveland State groovy caps. Cleveland State on the road can be, and that's true. Like a lot of teams, sometimes you can just go through the season and be a mediocre team, and then you just hit it at the right time. You are jamming going into conference tournaments, and you get your stride. Some teams kick butt all season long, and then they just crap the bed at the very last minute here. When it really matters, everyone just kind of falls apart. So, that's a real thing, and you kind of got to keep an eye out for that. I did play the UNC game over. Super sly. Sorry, I'm reading your comments. It's
okay.
I'm used to doing it on my own.
Do it all the time.
And to Allie's point about teams falling apart or getting hot down the stretch, look at Northern Kentucky. Northern Kentucky was 6-9. They've gone 12-2 since. So they're on a roll heading into the Horizon League. Darren Horn's done some good things with that team down the stretch.
No question about it.
So it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out.
Any more questions before we move up to NHL land?
Groovy Cats was saying any love for UNC. I really think Syracuse coming off of that blowout by who was that blew them out? Oh, Duke. That's right. My team.
Well, blowing out Syracuse doesn't move the needle that much.
Well, when all 6 teams ahead of you lose and you're the one that wins that day and you blow out Jim Boeheim, I'm just saying it's not the worst thing to ever happen. But I think Syracuse is, definitely in some sort of a bounce back spot here. UNC rolls. They like to score a lot. So I like that game over is the way that I played it. And I already teased Charleston with Delaware State and South Carolina State.
I actually like Syracuse with the points there just because I think, like you talked about last week, North Carolina is going to be looking ahead to playing Duke Saturday.
Yep.
And that's going to be a big thing for them. And Syracuse is getting, I think, 8 points. I don't know if North Carolina can win by that much, even playing at home.
8's a lot.
I'm not sold on the Tar Heels after the way I've seen them play down the stretch. Sure, they beat NC State. They beat Louisville. The Virginia Tech game was ugly. Plus, they lost to Pitt at home, and that's just galling.
Well, look, it's been an off year for the ACC all the way up and down the ladder. Normally.
Yeah, look at Florida State.
Yeah. But Anyway, we'll get. Well, I'm sure we're going to get some more college questions in a little bit. But
Speaking of, do we consider Florida State dead now? As far are they going to end up getting some bogus
what
9 or
the
10 seed in the tournament despite being 15-13?
Stranger things have happened. I'm not saying it's gonna, but stranger things are gonna happen. And Leonard Hamilton puts together good basketball.
I know,
So
but
I
they've
don't
lost
know.
8 out of 10. It's just, and their 2 wins are by 1 point in that stretch.
You asked me if they could do it. I didn't say
I know.
they were gonna.
I'm just looking at their record, though. I'm wondering, if they do get in, you'd have to wonder what good mid-major is going to get shafted because of the fact that they wanted to put Florida State in the tournament.
It happens every year. I mean, when you get 7 teams out of the Big Ten and 6 teams out of the ACC and 5 teams out of the other Power 5 schools, that doesn't leave you a lot of room to sneak. That's what I'm saying. Some of these smaller leagues who probably have teams that could, go deep into the tournament don't get there because they never get a chance. They're sold out by the Power 5 conferences.
Yeah, just looking at the adjusted rankings there, the ACC is 6th among the conferences. They're behind all the other conferences, the Big 12, the SEC, the Big 10, the Big East. Yeah, the Big East, even with Georgetown with no wins?
Oh, my God, that team.
Well, they're consistent.
0-17. Wow, even DePaul's got 5 wins in the conference. I mean, come on.
There you go.
DePaul.
Theory of the case. Now we're going to move to hockey for just a sec. On Friday, I went to a virtual news conference with Alexander Ovechkin. And this whole situation was the war going on in the Ukraine. Dominik Hasek was rather boisterous in his urging of the NHL to basically sideline all the Russian players. It's a tough thing at this point for Russian hockey players. And I say that because I've known Alex. He's been 17 years in the league, probably 15 of those years. I know what Evgeny Malkin means in Pittsburgh. They are members of the community, and in the case of Washington, Ovi's probably the most loved player in town. And what I try to explain to people is these are athletes, okay? Have they supported, Putin before? Yeah, fine. They have. But when your family is in Russia, your wife, your child, your mother, your father, everybody else, is that really the time you want to be making political statements? And I think that's kind of tough. So as we go to the NHL, I think we have to, when we start betting the NHL, start looking at how many Russian hockey players are on those teams. Because, man, I can assure you that they're thinking about what's going on at home, and that's going to affect perhaps some of their play. I mean, as I said, I've known Ovi for a number of years. I was asked to be on the call because, basically I can explain geopolitical situations as well as I can break down a hockey game. But at the end of the day, you really have to consider, where's the head going to be during those games? And, all I'm just saying is it's worth considering. So with that disclaimer.
So what you're saying is that should work in favor of me because of the fact that the Leafs are playing the Capitals tonight.
It might. I'm not going to say it wouldn't, but I'm just saying these are things to consider. When people's heads are not in the game, or maybe now there's another theory of the case, right? And that is maybe when you're on the ice, that's the only time you don't have to think about it.
And I find it funny that Hasek is one of the people to speak out, considering, I remember him in Buffalo when he went after Jim Kelly, the hockey writer, not the quarterback.
Right.
But
I call that up only because that's what he brought it up.
But, I know. I can only imagine what Don Cherry would be saying right now if Grapes was still on Hockey Night in Canada. Yeah. Well, he's got a podcast. I'm sure he'll be talking about it.
I'll miss it. All right, let's go to the NHL.
Can't believe that you're dissing Grapes like that. Speaking of hockey teams, we'll talk about the Vancouver Canucks, who are an underdog on the road against the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the Canucks have 17-8-4 under Boudreau after taking over for Travis Green. The Devils are not good. Apparently, the goaltending matchup has changed since I put this up. It's apparently, can you believe this, Jim? The Canucks are going to go with Yaroslav Halak.
Oof.
Why? Demko just shut down the Rangers yesterday in a 5-2 win. Why would you go to Halak, who hasn't played since? Do I even want to look up when the last time he took the ice was?
Maybe because they want to give Bruce a nice prize for driving through Jersey. I guess, I don't know.
But I mean, come on, Halak's last game.
Halak hasn't played well since he was in playing for Montreal.
Yeah, he played in relief on the 19th against Anaheim. And he still let in 2 goals. His last start was against John's Islanders back on February 9th, and he took the loss there when he gave up 5 goals on 12 shots.
Well, your number right there is 5-0 in the last 5 games for the Canucks.
Yeah, probably because Demko started them all.
Maybe.
But still, New Jersey's not good. It's apparently they're going to switch too. They're going to pivot from John Gillies. They're going to go with Nico Dawes, who's made all of, I think, 3 starts all season. Not an overly impressive track record to build off of. Yeah, he's made 5 appearances. 2 of them were in October. He did beat Pittsburgh last week in that game where everybody wanted to know where New Jersey came from that day because, like I said when we were on the show the next day, I came in from getting a snack and it was 3-0 already because Pittsburgh forgot to show up in their own building. But I just don't have faith in the Devils. Vancouver's a desperate team because they don't have a lot of wiggle room chasing a spot in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference. I'm just going to take a look here and see where they are because the wild card spots keep flipping almost every day. They currently are 3 points behind Dallas and Edmonton, who are tied for the second wild card in the West. So Boudreau can't afford to give away points, which makes me again wonder why would you go with Halak? But I'll take the fact that they're an underdog here against a New Jersey team that has a losing record at home and who is 13th in the Eastern Conference. I think Vancouver, even with Halak, just means that the total will go over, which I have further down anyway. But I'm going to take the Canucks in this one just because they're better than New Jersey.
And you get plus money, so there's some value on it.
Right. As you see, the puck line is prohibitive, so they don't even think New Jersey will win by more than 1 anyway.
I feel like it's like the line looks a little bit fishy to me because last night they played against the Rangers and they were minus 105 on the road. I don't know. It almost looks too easy. I bet this already. I a half a unit bet on the Canucks. But the more I think about it, the more I wonder about it, I guess.
I'm wondering if it's just because now that, like I said, they switched to Halak instead of
right.
Because now they've moved it to plus 105 as opposed to plus 110. But I still don't get why Halak is starting. It just makes no sense.
Well, Bruce is not going to give games away. So in Bruce I trust.
Yeah, I think Bruce might have been drunk when he decided to put Halak in net.
Anything's possible with Bruce, but I'm guessing not. Okay. So there you go. Okay, so now we're going to Washington.
Yep.
Where you're going to see the Maple Leafs and the Capitals.
Yeah, and again, I wasn't happy with watching that lead go from 7-2 to 7-6. Then it was 8-6. Then it was 8-7 before Toronto finally put it away late. Mrazek, played the last 14 or 15 minutes of that game and kind of stabilized things for Toronto. The Leafs 15-9-3 on the road. Washington doesn't play well at home, Jim, and maybe you can explain why, because I know normally the Capitals play well at the Capital One Arena, but not this year. It's supposed to be Mrazek 8-4-0 with a 307 goals against Ilya Samsonov, 17-9-3, but he's just 4-4 in his last 8 starts. But from what I hear, Vanacek is now down with the Syracuse Crunch, trying to get some work in so he can come back. Who's their backup right now? Is it Phoenix Copley?
Yeah.
Guy who can't even spell Phoenix right. Toronto 4th in the league in goals for at 3.65. They're 14th in goals against. Washington 13th in the league in goals for, 11th in goals against. Mitch Marner had himself a day the other day, 4 goals and 2 assists in that win. Second guy to score 6 points in a game this season. least 5-1 in their last 6 against the Metropolitan. They're 16-5 in their last 21 against the Eastern Conference. They're 15-6 in their last 21 as a road favorite. Caps 2-8 in their last 10 after allowing 2 goals or less. Our buddy Ryan went to go see the game with the Sharks, or not the Sharks, the Flyers and the Capitals the other day. We told them the Capitals would win, and of course they lost 2-1 to a Philadelphia team that can't beat anybody. So Jim, if that doesn't
beat the Capitals, so
if that doesn't tell you what's going on with the Capitals, I don't know what will. You lost to the Flyers, and the Caps are 0-5 in their last 5 at home.
Yeah, there's that. No, look, it's a team that's just not playing to their capabilities, and that's about all you can say.
I mean, they've got Oshie back now and everything else, and Backstrom is there, and Kuznetsov.
You can't make excuses. The fact of the matter is that they're not playing to their potential, and that happens in all types of sports. It's the kind of thing you hope, if you're a Capitals fan, that somebody slaps them out of the funk before they slide too far down the chain and get themselves in trouble when it comes to potentially not making the playoffs, which is something. It would be very uncapital-like.
Well, you don't have to worry about that right now. They're 10 points ahead of Columbus for the second wild card spot.
Yeah,
so
stranger things have happened.
Well, this is true. I mean, Columbus actually won some games before the weekend, so
that's true. Allie, let's talk a little bit about the association.
Well, I was going to say real quick, Supersly said we should hammer the over. And this is like when I look at the line movement and where the money's at, there's 98% of the money is on the over and 88% of the tickets are on the over, and it's staying at 6. Like that kind of movement, I would think would bump it up to a 6.5, but it's staying at a 6, which like in my brain says take it under if that line's not moving. So I'm not going to bet that, but it was just worth pointing out because it's a lot of money going on right there.
Yeah.
And no,
you're right. That's phenomenal.
The money moves the lines.
And nothing moved it. So
the weird thing is the over is 7-0 for Toronto's last 7 when they've scored 2 or when their opponent scores 2 or less, and 5-0 in their last 5 on Monday, plus 3-0-1 in their last 4 on the road. And Washington has given up a lot of goals of late too. It's gone over.
Why wouldn't they pop that up to a 6.5?
Maybe they're just slow to react.
They're not that slow.
No, that would not be it. They're not going to let 98% of the money get onto something before they move the line.
Right. They don't want to see 98% of the money go.
Yeah, they're not trying to balance it, is what I'm saying. You guys want to keep taking it over 6? Take it over 6. Take it over 6. This game finishes 3-2, kind of a thing. So, I mean, I'm definitely not a hockey expert. I'm not an anything expert, really, to be quite honest with you. But that's just, that's just how I think about that. Oh, sorry, Super Sly. Van in New Jersey, I can tell you where the money is on that if you want to know. It's 84% is on the over. 84% of the money is on the over. It's set at 6, and now it's a 6.5. That's how lines work.
Now, see, there's a lot of where I'm looking. There's a lot of sports books that have moved Toronto, Washington to 6.5 now. BetMGM has it at 6.5. DraftKings has it at 6.5. FanDuel has it at 6.5.
See, mine don't on my site that I look at.
According to Vegas Insider, which is where I try to pull up all the books at once because it's a lot easier. They've got those are the ones that have it at 6.5, along with Sugar House, which I've never heard of, and Unibet.
I've heard of Sugar House. That's in New York. They have Sugar House.
Is it? Yeah, the only ones that have it at 6 still are Caesars and PointsBet.
Okay.
Hold on, I want to look up Vegas Insider because I use a different one. No, thanks. And I have a friend who's using Vegas Insider, and he said to check it out because now they do free live odds. I do Wager Talk is how I've always done it.
Allie, now you said you like to do teasing, the teasers. Why don't you explain? Because we do have some people here who have not been in the gaming business. They're new to the sport. So let's talk a little bit about that because you're an expert at it.
I love teasing. I know it's not always like the smartest thing to do, but I love it. I do my own numbers. So if I'm hitting a streak in my betting where my numbers are like really spot on, and I hit my 3-team teaser I gave you guys last week, and I hit my 3-teamer yesterday. But basically say it's say it's a 5-point tease. My book does a 4.5. The old William Hill I had did a 6.5. I want to say Circa does a 5 or a 5.5. So it depends on what book you're on, how many points you're going to get in your tease. And some of them you can adjust it also, which will obviously adjust the odds too, or the money you'll make back. But say you've got a team and they're +5, and you put it on a 5-point teaser. Now that +5 goes to a +10. If you had a -5, it would go to a pick'em. So you're basically buying points, but a teaser works like a parlay works in that you have to have more than one team on it. And of course, they both have to hit. I like a 3-team teaser. That's kind of my jam. I like it. But sometimes if I'm really loving something, I'll go like 4, never really 5. And then I split them also. Like I'll do a totals teaser and I'll do sides teaser. I don't typically mesh them together unless maybe all I like that day is 2 totals and a side, and that'll be my 3-teamer. So I do really like them a lot. Because if your numbers are on, then you should be able to get it within 5 points, is how I feel about that. And then it works for totals too. I told you guys last week, say the total is 200 and you have a 5-point teaser, you're going to tease it over 200. Now you only have to go over 195. Or the other way, you would have to stay under 205. So it's going to manipulate the line for you.
All right, let's go to the association where we've got.
But wait, real quick, because James S is yelling, teasing drops the payoff significantly. It's not that it's dropping the payoff because you're buying points, you're getting something, right? Whereas opposed to a parlay, you would have bigger odds, but you've got to hit them all and you don't get the extra points. But I always say I straight bet every one of my teasers, unless I'm in a slump, then I won't. And I'll just use my teaser to kind of gauge how good I am right now. But I always straight bet. And I highly recommend that to anybody who's parlaying or teasing. Straight bet your tickets, because that one ruins your ticket for the day. Why? I did all this work and I got 4 games that I thought would kick butt and one of them lost. Why would I lose for the day? No, I cashed
Cincinnati
straight. Like Cincinnati. Hi, Silky Man. So he's one of my crew. It's one of my posse.
There you go.
But yeah, so always straight bet your teasers and your parlays. That's your lottery ticket. Your parlay or your teaser is just your lottery ticket. You throw like a quarter unit or a half a unit on it, depending on what you want. And then you full unit your straights. Okay. So I just had to say that. I don't only tease. It's not how I do it.
There you go. From the expert. All right, here we go to the association. And tonight.
I like Memphis. I like Memphis at home over San Antonio. I mean, let's face it. The Spurs just played 2 ridiculously scoring games lately. We had that game where Pete was at the Capital One Arena the other day, Jim, and got to see the Wizards lose in double overtime in a game that looked like nobody wanted to play defense. 157-153, and then Pop's team went down to Miami and then lost 133-129 on Saturday to the Heat. Now they got to face a Memphis team that can score. The Grizzlies second in the league in scoring offense. We saw John Morant drop, 46 the other day?
Yeah.
San Antonio likes to score. They like to run, which is not a Popovich style, but they don't play defense either, which definitely is not Pop's game, because obviously everybody remembers for as long as he's been there that the Spurs have been a good defensive team. And not playing defense is not going to work for them here against the Grizz. I'm just taking a quick look to see if there's anything new on the injury report, because I saw a whole bunch of question marks on San Antonio earlier. See if they changed anything. And we've got, where are they? Milwaukee, Oklahoma City, Memphis. Okay, they're down to having Romeo Langford and Doug McDermott as questionable. So apparently DeJounte Murray and Jakob Poeltl are going to play, which will help the Spurs, but they still can't slow anyone down even when Poeltl's on the floor. You look at the fact that Memphis is 5-1 in their last 6 after an ATS win. They're 5-1 in their last 6 at home against teams with a losing road record. Spurs are 3-9 against the spread in their last 12 after an ATS win, and 0-4 in the last 4 meetings with the Grizzlies. It's tough to slow Memphis down, even if you play good defense and Pop's team doesn't. I think Memphis is going to roll this one at home, probably by double digits, just because San Antonio. When's the last time they held anybody down on the defensive end of the floor? I can't even remember.
I know Craig Trapp is on the Spurs in this one. He thought it was too many points. but I did not bet this.
I'm just
Well-
taking a look here and just looking at San Antonio's defensive numbers. The one team they've held down lately was Oklahoma City, and that's not really going to
I'm
impress
not so
anybody.
sure whether it's the Spurs holding them down or Oklahoma City just not playing well.
Right.
Right. You
Not
look at
showing up to work.
you look at the two meetings this season, and Memphis won by 13 at home, and they won by 8 on the road. So they've won 4 out of they've won the last 5 meetings straight up between these teams, including a 31-point win back in February, or last February, I should say. I just like Memphis here. I just can't trust San Antonio to slow anyone down, and I think the way we've seen Memphis click on the offensive end of the floor, Morant's been pretty much unstoppable lately, and that doesn't bode well to a Spurs team that give 153 to a Washington team that has, well, no one playing right now. And who played for Washington? Kuzma had 36. Caldwell Pope had Raul Neto had 22. That's probably more points than he scored in his first 3 years in the league with the Jazz. Corey Kispert had double digits. I mean, they let 7 guys score in double figures for Washington, and Washington is not a team that's going to scare anyone at this point of the season with no players, especially without Beal and with Porzingis still sitting out. If you go up 153 to Washington, I shudder to think what you're going to give up in regulation to Memphis.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll take the Grizzlies, and then we'll go down to Miss Shirley's just off Beale Street and have some fish and grits and hush puppies and have a good night. What do you think?
You're not going to talk about the geese or whatever?
Oh, no. The Peabody Hotel in Memphis is where the Ducks walk through the lobby.
I knew it was a bird. I couldn't remember which one it was.
Yeah, go. You know. So if you're going to go to Memphis, you're going to go to Miss Shirley's, have some fish, listen to some jazz, and watch the Grizz play. So there you go. That's a good night.
I like it.
There you go. Where we're going next, Chris?
We're going to go to Brooklyn.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yep. There you go.
We're going to be up all night because there's no sleep till Brooklyn. So
I backed the Raptors on Friday and watched them forget to get on the plane to go to Charlotte. Then, of course, they didn't show up in Atlanta either. But they're facing a Brooklyn team that still won't have Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving still can't play until maybe at least next week at home. Joe Harris, I guess he's going to have another surgery on his ankle, so who knows when he'll play again. And, let's face it, the Nets, they beat Milwaukee the other day more because Milwaukee beat themselves. I watched most of the second half of that game and wondered why Antetokounmpo was trying to, shoot a free throw or made a free throw when his team was down in the final seconds instead of, missing it to try to get a shot to tie the game. But looking at the injury report for the Nets, it's not pretty. I mean, you're minus your top 2 guys. Ben Simmons probably won't be back. I guess he hurt himself conditioning to get back on the floor, so now they're saying mid-March.
Yeah.
Maybe. What a trade that was. You traded away, or you traded to get him, and now he's not going to play. At least they've got Seth Curry.
I was going to say, I do love Seth Curry on that team, though. That was probably the best part of that whole trade.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Drummond, but, he hasn't been effective as an offensive player in, 6-7 years? I don't like the Nets. I mean, when they have Irving and Durant and all those guys, sure, they're great. The problem is, when it's kind of like the Lakers with LeBron and AD. When they're on the floor, they're great, but when are you going to see them?
Yeah.
And I look at the
picture.
There you go, the team picture. There you go, or the program, because they'll be in there even if they're not on the floor. But the Nets are 6-20-1 against the spread in their last 27 at home. They're 1-7 in their last 8 at home against teams with a winning road record. Toronto's covered in the last 4 meetings in Brooklyn. Fred VanVleet is supposed to play. I know he's dealing with a sore knee. OG Anunoby, of course, I still don't know how he broke his finger because it wasn't broken going into the All-Star break, but now all of a sudden he's hurt. But I still think Toronto will bounce back here. The Nets just have too many missing pieces at this point.
He broke his finger in morning workout.
Oh.
Of all the ways to break your finger, you break it during a shoot around.
Well,
why didn't you just say he slammed it in his luggage or something?
He should say, "You should see the other guy." That's
right. You should see the other hand.
Yeah.
But quick note: Allie's a baseball girl.
Mm-hmm.
The Barclays Center, where the Nets play, is where the new Ebbets Field was supposed to be when the Dodgers were going to hopefully stay in Brooklyn before they went to Los Angeles. So they built the Barclays Center on top of 7 different subway lines. So there's no way you can't find your way to the Barclays Center.
Unless you don't want to. Then
I've been there many times. It's a good place to watch an event. Good place to watch basketball.
But how much is beer?
I don't know.
Plastic flask. You need a plastic flask.
I was wondering if it was more expensive than the Gila River Arena. Since we talked about
it's
that.
Not that. People in Brooklyn wouldn't pay it.
That's true.
Too many places to go and eat in Brooklyn and have fun.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be at the Barclays Center.
Yeah, go to the Barclays Center, have fun, enjoy the game, then go out. As Allie said, you don't sleep when you go to Brooklyn.
Yeah, there's no sleep till you get to Brooklyn. Then you can sleep, but no sleep until you're at Brooklyn. Yeah.
Okay.
But then you got to watch a game, you got to drink some beers, and then you're all right. Yeah.
And look, it's Detroit Lenny.
What up, though?
Hey, Lenny,
He
how
just
are you,
got out
buddy?
of Manic Monday.
There you go. We'll have to send him a link. He can join us.
Hop on in.
There you go. So, I mean, the interesting thing to me is there a second half team that you're looking at in the NBA, Allie, that is kind of like an underdog, somebody flying under the radar? I said 76ers personally, but that was just me.
I don't think I follow the NBA enough to answer that question properly. Teams that I've really liked, I really like the Bulls this season. And some of these, it might just be like I happen to watch the games when they're kicking butt,
right.
But I know the Bulls they're like a 15-13 team on the road. They're not like the greatest in the whole wide world, but I really like the Bulls. I think they're young and they're fun. I like the Cavs a lot this season. I've been riding with the Cavs. I mean, I'm kind of obsessed with the Bucks right now. I feel like I just opened a box and I was like, oh, the Bucks. This is what everyone's talking about. Oh my God, they're great. They're fantastic. So I'm totally high on the Bucks right now, but I'm not a huge NBA person because I don't bet a lot of NBA because lines, sharpness of lines and players sitting and not playing and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it's always great when they scratch somebody 10 minutes before tip off.
Yeah, and that's the whole reason that you were betting on that team was because this guy's on it and he's not. So good luck with that. Fingers crossed. So yeah, NBA is just a little bit more gambling for me, but the dude that I date is really into it. So I've been watching it a whole lot more. So there's that.
There you go. I have a new nephew-in-law who is a Golden State fan for life. Grew up in the Bay Area out in San Francisco, and is extreme. It's hilarious because he'll say to me, "Hey, have you ever watched this Golden State team play?" I'm like, "Yeah, I probably saw it on play."
No, never heard of them. Are they new?
Yeah, all the way back to Rick, Barry playing for Golden State. So, anyway.
Barry with his underhand free throws.
I do like the Sixers, though, and Super Sly was saying it. He doesn't trust Harden in the playoffs, but I do think that Harden and Embiid combination is a good combination. I think it's two guys with the same mindset and the same aggressiveness on the basketball
got a Yoda
court.
thing going on. Yeah.
Yes, they're a good match. They're a really good match together. So I dig what's going on there for sure.
I do agree with Sly, though. I don't trust Harden in the playoffs either. Whenever he has a big game, it's when his team's down 3-0 or 3-1 in the series. The last time he put a dagger in anyone was in Oklahoma City, and that was a decade ago.
Yeah.
Well, you never know.
Wasn't that his old team, too? So it was like a revenge thing also? It was personal.
It's a double dagger. Yeah. Before we move on, let's talk about another promo from BetMGM. Now, BetMGM will give new customers a risk-free bet on your first sports wager up to $1,000. Only new players are eligible for this bonus. It must be claimed within 7 days after you've signed up. Now, once you create an account and you make your first, that we know. once you create an account and make your first bet on any on of that. Let's try to speak English, Jim. Okay. Once you create an account and make your first deposit, place real money in a sports bet between $10 and $1,000, and it'll be matched by BetMGM. Okay. All the information's in the show box below. Check it out along with the other BetMGM promotion that we talked about earlier. So, all right. Bills have been paid. So let's move on to two for the money. Speaking of money.
Yeah, we talked about it. I like Memphis over San Antonio. I know that Allie said Craig thinks it's too many points. I just like the way Memphis plays at home. I don't like San Antonio, especially with the ever-loving road trip that seems to never end around rodeo time for the Spurs. And after giving up 286 points in their last two games, I just think Memphis is probably going to put up a whole truckload against the Spurs. Baylor, Texas, I know that this is one of those games that we don't normally talk about, but after seeing Baylor come back and beat Kansas the other day, they've beaten Texas handily earlier this season. And let's face it, the Bears were one of those few teams that were ranked that actually won over the weekend, as we watched 7 of the top 10 teams in the nation fall. Strangely, Gonzaga and Arizona still 1-2 in the new polls after that. But I like Baylor here. They're only given 1.5 points. I think they should win that one. And then Vancouver, we talked about over New Jersey, and I'm sticking with Hofstra over Charleston. I just think that, I don't like the Cougars. I don't like Pat Kelsey's style. It might work. It worked in the Big South, the helter-skelter, basically the Paul Westhead type offense. But you're facing a team in Hofstra that can do it just as well, and the Pride are at home, and they shoot free throws, and that's going to be the difference.
Okay, 4 for the show.
Yeah, it's here somewhere. There it is. The Raptors over the Nets. I like Fordham, and I know that we never talk about Fordham because, hey, they're a crappy team in the A10. Well, you know who else is a crappy team in the A10? UMass.
Yes.
This game's at Fordham, so now, Jim, we've talked about this before, and you got the wrong borough because you said your brother yelled at you about it. There you go. It's in the Bronx. Okay. I just know it's Rose Hill Gymnasium or something like that.
It's in the Bronx.
Yeah, because didn't you say it was Queens last time, and then your brother got mad?
No. I said that a lot of people think it's in Queens. It's in Brooklyn, and it's about not Brooklyn. It's in the Bronx. And it's about 6 blocks from Yankee Stadium.
Well, you said your brother said you didn't know where Fordham was.
Well, my brother's wrong. I do know where Fordham was.
But yeah, this one's at Fordham. I don't really like UMass. I've watched them play a bunch of times. They're 2-7 on the road. Fordham actually has a winning home record. They're 8-4, and they're 9-3 against the spread at home. The line's actually down. Well, it was down. Let me make sure it still is. No, it's still at 2. Okay. Some books have it at 1.5. Either way, I think Fordham should prevail. Neptune has done a good job there, taking over after the Jeff Neubauer debacle that was running that program into the ground. We talked about Wyoming and San Diego State. It's hard to argue with a team that's 13-0 at home. And like Allie said, playing in Laramie is a high altitude. I think you're going to see a big crowd there, and I think that they're going to beat another team up near the top of the Mountain West. I mean, we've seen them beat Fresno State. We've seen them beat Boise State. They've beaten Colorado State there. Wyoming's good. They're one of those teams that nobody talks about except us and probably Allie because everybody overlooks them. Yeah. And like I said, I like Syracuse +8 over North Carolina. I know the Tar Heels are at home. I think the Tar Heels will win. But I think, they're also looking ahead to that game against Duke because who else would love to ruin Krzyzewski's last game at Cameron Indoor than the Tar Heels?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Well, and like if you get your butt beat by Duke, like now you can take it out on UNC. You can take it out on their little brother,
and that's true too. I think, and I think, the weird thing about that game the other day was, with Syracuse was that Buddy Boeheim was insisting on shooting the ball almost every possession. They have more than one guy on that team that you wouldn't have known from watching it. But he took 21 shots in that game.
This is Jim's last year too, isn't it?
He's been saying that since 2007?
I remember him saying that he's retiring when Buddy graduates. that was his
buddy, his
thing.
grandson. I mean, he's been there forever. I mean,
have you seen the pictures when Carmelo Anthony played for Syracuse and Buddy Boeheim is in the locker room with him, and he's like he's 5 or whatever. He's this little kid, but that's how long Jim Boeheim's been there. You know, it's crazy. That family has their whole legacy is surrounded in that school. So with Boeheim's last time, go ahead.
My first year of doing basketball with ESPN was 1979, and the first thing we did was Big East basketball. So I've seen Jim Boeheim more times than I care to mention.
Do you know a guy named Tony Renaud, Jim?
Tony Renaud.
Yeah.
I know of him. I think so.
Okay. His wife is who I went to my spiritual retreat with over the weekend. He lives here in town. He's a friend of mine, but he was ESPN like since way back then too. He used to
back in the day.
He used to manage the Charlotte Hornets. Way back. Yeah.
There you go. Not a bad situation.
Speaking of Boeheim, real quick, he says that next year he'll be minus 3 of his 5 starters because not only will Buddy Boeheim be gone, apparently Jimmy Boeheim will be gone too, and so will Cole Swider. He said that on his weekly talk show last week.
Well,
so maybe he'll finally retire. I mean, my first memories of Boeheim was back in the mid '80s in the Ronnie Cycli, Sherman Douglas era. And still watching him, grimace when Keith Smart hit that jumper in the '87 title game.
Well, there's some characters in that time. You had John. You had Ricky Pitino was at Providence. Mm-hmm. You had Big John Thompson at Georgetown.
You had Carnesecca at St. John's.
Carnesecca at St. John's. You had Louis De Palma over in Philly at Villanova. You
mean Raleigh Massimino?
Raleigh Massimino over there.
PJ Carlissimo was at Seton Hall.
That's what I was going to say was Carlissimo. I love him.
So, you had some Hall of Fame coaches in that league. It was, you weren't going to get a night off in that league back in the day, but Jimmy's the only one left. I mean, last man standing. I mean, John passed away years ago.
I mean, Pitino's still around.
And Pitino's playing, coaching in Iona. So, but Rick was like the little kid at that time. I mean, Rick was in his 20s coaching.
Well, I'm talking about kids. I mean, remember when Pitino took that team to the Final Four, Billy Donovan, who's now coaching the Bulls, was his point guard.
Right.
That's right. And then he went on to be the coach of Florida with Noah and those kids and won back-to-back national championships.
Back-to-back.
Back-to-back national championships.
So there you go. All right, Allie, we're at the part of the show which is we like to call our Chinese menu. And this is whatever you want. Okay.
And we don't get to call it, a Charlie Foxtrot because, they don't let you talk like that on the show.
Here you go. Zoom.
Yeah, like Allie said, I like South Carolina State plus 10 over Howard. I know Howard is a good team. They played well, but I think 10 points is a lot considering when you go back to their first meeting, South Carolina State won by 3 at home. Now, sure, Howard's going to win the game probably, but, Kenny Blakeney hurt me last week when we were on the show and lost to Coppin State. Like I said, I think they'll win, but I don't think they're going to win by 10. And you said you took South Carolina State, right, Allie?
Yep, it's on my tees with College of Charleston and Delaware State.
Now, I know that Allie doesn't give big point numbers, but, that's why we put the money lines on there, too, just so you can see how bad they are. But I like Iowa over Northwestern. I just don't trust the Wildcats. I know they've had their ups and downs. Iowa's played some good basketball of late. Fran McCaffrey's team, they whipped Michigan State last week. They whipped Ohio State. They crushed Nebraska. In the first meeting, Nebraska got the backdoor cover because Iowa decided not to play defense in the last minute last week. But let's face it, Northwestern, they lost to Penn State Friday. They've lost 4 out of 5, including that 17-point loss to Minnesota, which I don't know how that happened because Minnesota is another team that is not very good. And their one win in their last 5 was a win over Nebraska. So everybody beats Nebraska except Penn State, who didn't yesterday because they forgot to show up in their own freaking building. But that's enough about talking about Nebraska and Northwestern. Texas Tech, I think, is going to beat Kansas State. should be
Oops.
rather handy. Allie apparently vanished on us.
Wrong button. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Texas Tech is going to win at home. Like Euler said earlier, they blow teams out at home. I think they're outscoring their opponents by like 21 or 22 points a game at home this season. I think they'll win that one comfortably. New Mexico, I'm going to take with the points over Fresno State. Friendly said Fresno State's kind of fallen by the wayside of late. You just look at their numbers. Fresno State comes in. They had lost 4 straight before beating Air Force last week. They've got San Diego State coming up on Thursday. They might look ahead a little bit because they've got San Diego State and Wyoming to close the season. New Mexico, they beat Air Force on Saturday. They had lost 3 straight before that. They haven't been a great road team, but I think that they can cover the line. They only lost by 5 to Fresno State at home back in January. I'll take the points there. The Bulls I like plus 4.5 over the Heat. Miami's going to be without Kyle Lowry, without Markieff Morris, without Victor Oladipo. The Bulls, I know that they've got their own injury issues, but Miami's just due for some regression here. They played Friday and Saturday, so this is their 3rd game in 4 nights. I like the Bulls. The Kings over the Thunder. This is one of those games where it's just horrible. The Kings don't play defense. The Thunder can't play offense. Well, I mean, I guess they could. They just don't know how.
They choose not to.
Yeah, the Thunder also won't have the Lou Dort. They won't have Josh Giddey. They won't have Mike Muscala. They won't have Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. So you just took away your 2nd and 3rd best scorers. That's too much pressure for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to try and take on his own. Take the Kings on the road. Hopefully that line doesn't go up anymore. The Pacers plus 1 over the Magic. Indiana coming off an impressive win over Boston yesterday. I think that they can pull out a victory in that one. Allie said she doesn't know what happened. Her internet just decided to leave her. That's okay, Allie. We know how that goes. It happens all the time. On the ice, Vancouver, New Jersey, I still think is going to go over 6. I think Toronto and Washington is going to go over 6. I mean, like we said, Toronto gave up 7 goals the other night by themselves. Sure, they scored 10, but it was not an entertaining game to watch as a Leafs fan, watching the game go from 7-2 to 7-6 in 4 minutes. If I was a drinking man, it would have prompted me to start drinking.
You are now. Yes, sir.
And the Bruins and the Kings, I look to stay under the number. Both teams have been playing good hockey of late. The Bruins have found themselves all of a sudden after getting Patrice Bergeron back. Perhaps the Tuukka Rask retiring has helped clear up some things for them. Brad Marchand's back from a suspension. Meanwhile, the Kings have won 8 of 10. It's supposed to be Jonathan Quick and Linus Ullmark in net there. Boston has seen the under go 5-0-2 in their last 7 games. I think this one's going to be a 3-2, 3-1 type of game there. As for Tom asking about Alcorn State and Texas Southern, I like the way Johnny Jones's team has responded. Remember, they started the year 0-7, then they had that win over Florida in the Swamp.
Yeah.
That triggered a run where they've won 14 of their last 18 games. They've won 3 in a row. They're coming in off a 81-66 win over Jackson State. Alcorn State, they've played some decent basketball. They started the year 1-11. They've gone 11-4 since. They edged Prairie View A&M in their last game. But when you get right down to it, Texas Southern has played some quality basketball. They're 6-1 at home. Alcorn State 8-12 on the road. They've covered in 14 of those 20 road games.
Mm-hmm.
But going to Texas Southern is a different ball of wax. I mean, the Tigers play very good basketball there. They play well on the defensive end. Alcorn State's not a very good offensive team. They're just 313th in scoring offense. They don't shoot well. Just looking at some rough numbers here, I think that Texas Southern should come up with the victory. 6 points. Yeah, I would probably I wouldn't chase it any higher than that. The fun part about the SWAC is, the teams normally like to run. These two teams don't run as much as most of the others.
Mm-hmm.
So, and neither team shoots all that well, but gonna give Texas Southern the edge playing at home, and the fact that they're a little better offensively, and they're good on the defensive end of the floor. They hold opposing teams to 45.9% effective field goal percentage, and for some reason, and I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to this. That's nothing that Texas Southern does. Opposing teams shoot only 63.6% at the free throw line against them, which is the lowest number in the nation.
Wow.
I don't know if it's the rims.
Yeah, they got the rims are actually 2 inches shorter than the ones in regulation. It makes it a little tougher.
It's like when you play in the Euro League or something.
Right. Yes, hit that ball. Let me do one other quick piece of business while you look at some questions to answer here. And that's our own Chris King, the best bets. That's right. You can get Chris's best parlays every day. Each day, Chris will send you his best parlay tickets to play, usually made up of 1, 2, or 4 teams or even greater. All right. Not everyone can win. I mean, we know that. Come on, folks. But playing the odds, Chris keeps things profitable, and he does win. In the last 2 weeks, Chris has won 2 16 parlays, 2 14 parlays, 1 16 parlay, 2 18 team parlays, earning a better $100 up to $30,000. So,
and a dozen donuts.
All the information on Chris's bets and how you can get them sent directly to your email or your phone is in the show box below, along with our MGM promotions and all the other cool stuff you need to know.
Matthew got in touch with me over the weekend, and we talked about some games. He took Murray State, St. Bonaventure, and Wyoming in a money line parlay the other day and won, so that's a plus.
Thanks, Matthew. Hope you enjoyed your winnings.
I'm just looking here, a lot of everybody. I couldn't believe IPFW was an underdog over the weekend because, let's face it, there aren't a lot of good. We've talked about the Horizon League a lot.
Right.
But IPFW being an underdog at Detroit Mercy was strange. I mean, granted, Detroit Mercy had played well at home all season, but we were talking about an IPFW team that was 8-8. Now they're 20-10. John Kaufman's done a good job there. I was surprised they were an underdog, and anybody that jumped on it made a wise choice there. Just looking, we just talked about Texas Southern revenge spot at home. I mean, you have to consider, Alcorn State is a tough team. They beat Texas Southern by 1 at home, but that's why I think Texas Southern's going to bounce back here. John asked if a revenge spot is a real thing. Sure, because there's, especially in the bigger conferences, it's not, and to some extent smaller conference teams, you don't want to lose to whoever your rival is or anything like that. So you always want to try to, put the stick to them anytime you can. Let's see, scrolling down. Yep, don't see any other ones.
If you happen to miss the show, and you get here late, just remember that if you don't want to watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on our podcast, which goes up, as I said, approximately 5 to 10 minutes after the show is over. You can find us at the Apple Podcast Store. You can find us on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, as well as iHeart, TuneIn, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Okay, so if you can't see us live, which happens, okay, if you happen to be a fan of Allie's and you watch her show, you can pick us up on the podcast. Okay, so all that's going to be fun. Please go out and sign up, and we will have that delivered right to your phone, your tablet, or to both for free of charge. All right, so that's cool. All right, any final thoughts there, Mr. King, before we head out here on a Monday afternoon?
Well, I mean, let's see. Min 12. Oh, he's talking about Cleveland, Minnesota. Okay, I'm just looking here. Yeah, Minnesota. It's a stat that we pulled up last week. Let me see if
Minnesota University of?
No, the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are playing the Cavaliers tonight.
Okay.
If you look at the last 13 games Minnesota had on the road, and this was going into the All-Star break, Minnesota's road games in that stretch, in the last 13 road games, had seen an average total of 244.7 points per game. compared to their last 12 at home going into the break, where they had given up or seen an average of 218.3. So you're looking at a 26-point swing between home and road splits in that stretch. I'm just looking here to see what the total is. They've only got it at 218. I mean, I think the reason why you see it at that number right now is because of the fact that Cleveland leads the league in scoring defense. I'm just going to take a look at the splits here real quick to see what Minnesota scores and gives up on the road versus Cleveland. Let's see. Minnesota's for the season now averages 116.8 points a game, and they give up 117.2. So that's an average of 234 points a night. Cleveland, meanwhile, at home, 106, and they give up 99.2. So, I mean, you see that Cleveland plays good defense. The other thing that concerns me about the Cavs tonight, according to the injury report, shows that they won't have – where'd it go? Darius Garland is out again. So is Karis LeVert. So is Rondo, not like he scores any points. For Minnesota, the only person on the injury report to speak of is Malik Beasley, but he's probable tonight. 218 doesn't seem like it's that bad. Let me just see what Cleveland's done lately in regards to the total. They stayed under in that game against Washington the other day. That was a horrible game to watch. Over, under. So the under 6-3-1 in Cleveland's last 10. In Minnesota's last 10, the over is 7-3. First meeting this season, Cleveland won 123-106 at Minnesota. That went over the total by 15.5. I would probably lean towards the over just because of the fact that, obviously, like you said, Minnesota gives up a ton of points. Mm-hmm. And Cleveland, as good as they are defensively, they're also depleted. So you have to think that it's going to create some opportunities for the Timberwolves. I'd look for that one to go slightly over. I wouldn't chase it too much. Minnesota's favored by 3.5 in the game, which just shows you how banged up Cleveland is.
Yeah, there you go. Real quick for baseball fans, I'm going to give it a 25% chance that they make the deadline tonight. I don't think it's going to happen. So that means that there will be less games. That will mean that we're not going to have a 162-game season this year. And there will be an expanded playoffs. The problem is if you're not playing a season, how do you get to the playoff? So there's that. The next deadline, if this goes through this week, if they go through this week and they don't get anything done, you're looking at the potential of a 150-game season. Anything beyond this week, then we're in trouble of actually getting to that 100, and 30, 40 game situation. So there's a lot riding on these two sides getting something done. I don't think it'll get done today, but I do think it will get done this week. So I've spoken to a number of people on both sides. Some of my players who are, down there actually in the bargaining aspect are talking, and they are guardedly optimistic something's going to be done. Some of my people that are from the owner's side want to see something done, but wanting to and getting there are two different things, and it's a tough negotiation. So we will see how it turns out. But like I said, I'll put a 25% chance on it getting done tonight by midnight. I'd put a 70% chance on it getting done by the end of the week, because neither side can lose any more money than they are now, and baseball cannot afford the PR hit they're taking at this very minute.
Well, right, they can't deal with the animosity of the fans, because they've already eroded the fan base going back the last few years. Yeah. Even look at the shortened season of 2020. Mm-hmm. You've had the other issues going back and forth, and all this does is it makes Gary Bettman look like a competent commissioner, which nobody would have ever said 10 years ago.
Well, in fairness to Manfred, Rob has, he was the guy who Sherpa their way through not having any issues since the '94 strike, and so he's been leaving that. But remember that commissioners are only as good as their owners. They work for the owners, and that's why I'm saying, well, whomever the commissioner may be, it's easy to take a swat at the commissioners, but they work for the owners. So if the owners have them by the throat and say, you can't do this, you can't do that, then it's a problem. I think Rob Manfred, Fred was a baseball announcer for the Baltimore Orioles, by the way. I don't think he wants to let this go any further, but he's got to get at least some of what the owners want. Right now, they don't have it. And even though the players are giving concessions, which is a good thing, they're not going to go overly above and beyond either. So somewhere, the best negotiation is one where both sides walk away thinking they didn't get a good deal. And I think that's where we are at this point in time. So there's your update on the baseball. Any final thoughts, Chris, before we hit the road, buddy?
I think it's going to be interesting to see how some of these things pan out. And like you pointed out earlier with Ovechkin and everything, hopefully everything pans out over there for the best between the Ukraine and Russia. Obviously, it's a complex situation, and it's making life difficult for a lot of people, both on and off the sporting environments.
Right.
Other than that, we'll see how things pan out today. Hopefully they pan out better than some of the games that we saw over the weekend. Like we said, 7 out of 10 of the top 10 teams in the country lost Saturday. First time ever that the top 6 teams all were beaten.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we won't see a shakeup like that again anytime soon.
Let's hope not. And, again, to your point, forgetting the sports side of it, as Chris said, I mean, let's see that war that's going on over in Eastern Europe end as quickly as possible before any other poor people are caught up in it. Coming up at 3 o'clock, which isn't that far from now, about 8 minutes, is our buddy Scott and Scott over on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network, where they will bring you back to the window, and be interesting to see how things went over the weekend for Scott and Scott. And come back and join us tomorrow. Special thanks to our guest, Allie Burns. Now, Allie can be seen on her own show on, of course, the Picks and Parlays Network, which is right here on YouTube. And it can be seen at 1:30, same time as us. But she said they're moving to 1 o'clock, so we can kind of bounce back and forth. So get used to seeing Allie. She's on Picks and Parlays. Our friends over there, along with Lenny and the gang. We'll get Lenny on soon, too. So check them out, too. So, all right, folks, have a great day. Hope we answered your questions. If not, come on back tomorrow. Leave some questions in the comments below. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe button, and ring the bell so that you get all the information that we have here. So, anyway. It's been fun, as it always has been. It was good having Allie. We will be back with you tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be cashing some tickets in the meantime. So everybody have a wonderful day, a safe day, and we'll see you next time right here on Just Parlays with my buddy Chris King.